down here.
Oh.
As we go through the house, just feel free to go ahead and ask. Chateau here was built in 1883 by the Marquis de Moraes, who was a French nobleman who came over here to start a meatpacking empire. On April 1st, he descended from his railroad car into the small town of Little, Missouri. He didn't really like that a whole lot because when he came off his railroad car, he was dressed in the top hat, soap shirts and things, and the cowboys and ranchers that were standing there began laughing at him because of how he was dressed and didn't really appreciate that. So then he crossed the river, set up his tents, and one of the tent stakes there, he smashed a bottle of champagne, and then started his own new town called Medora, after his wife. Picture back there of Medora, that's when she was 17. There's another picture of her at the age of 26 right over there. That's how old she was when she married the Marquis. She was 2 years older than him. At the time, some people did consider her an old maid because she hadn't married in her teens. Medora was the daughter of a wealthy Wall Street banker from New York, Baron von Hoffman, and she met the Marquis in Paris where she was vacationing with her family. They were married in February of 1882 in Cannes, France. The three pictures back here, those are of the Chateau de la Boca, which was Medora's family home there. Marquis did have a chateau there as well called the Villa des Tours. After they were married, they went to New York, spent the winter at the home right there on Staten Island. Marquis worked in his father-in-law's banking business, started reading about the cattle craze in all the newspapers, decided to come out here and try meatpacking for him. It was completed in about 3 months for somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. It was only a summer home for the family. They would come in late spring, leave in October and November. They did try and stay here one winter, it just got too cold, so then they went back to New York. This is the living room where they would entertain their many guests. Local people didn't get invitations up here very often because the Marquis wasn't well liked. But European nobility and their friends from New York would come out here mainly to go hunting. Grizzly bearskin rug there on the floor and the Audubon sheep horns, which are by the door behind me. Those are the only two original trophies that we have in the house of the Marquis. Him and Medora would go on frequent hunting trips. They'd often be gone for 6 weeks at a time. The fireplace there is basically the extent of the central heating in the house. It does extend into 3 other rooms, so you'll be able to see that when we walk through. And also the chair right here is Morris chair. It was the Marquis' favorite. It's kind of like our modern day recliner. This bar can just be moved. And of course it was moved by the servants, not by the Marquis himself. Also, see some of their books back here. There are some in different languages. The Marquis could speak 4 languages fluently. Medora could speak 7. You can see they were quite well educated. And she would also play a piano similar to this for the guests that came as well. Are there any questions at all? And bills. She would also supervise the 15 to 20 servants that they brought out here from New York. The head servants would stay upstairs. The rest would stay downtown in the Marquis' hotel in Medora. They'd have to walk up here every day for work then. They did have 3 children, Athenias, Louis, and Paul. They're in the picture with Medora on that desk right there. It was taken in 1901. The 2 oldest, Athenias and Louis, were both out here when they were young children. Paul wasn't born until 1890 in Paris, so he never made it out here when he was a child. They did only stay here for 3 years. When the meatpacking business closed down in 1886, they left as well and didn't return after that. See some of Medora's paintings here on her easels, and the parasol right back here, which she would paint under when she was sitting outside. At that time, women of her class were expected to have ivory white skin. Only servants had the tan skin. Also, this wardrobe right here, that's collapsible. The pegs on it can be removed and it just folds together. Dora would bring that out each spring, then take it back to New York with her again in the fall. And then the fireplace does extend into this room as well, just the bath bricks. Any questions?
You said this thing folds down?
Mm-hmm. And the top comes off and
Yeah,
there's pegs that they just pull out of it. It kind of folds together. Mm-hmm. Next room then is Medora's bedroom. Its estimated losses were somewhere around $1.5 million. the Marquis' bathroom. It's the first indoor bathroom in Dakota Territory, actually just an outhouse brought indoor for the Marquis. There's also a tub in there that was special ordered for him out of St. Paul, Minnesota for $8.75. So you can go ahead and take a look at that.
Never did go in this room.
Dressing room. Sally would help him dress at morning, help him bathe and shave. Steamer trunks back there, 2 of the 6 that we do have in the house. And right here, this is a portable commode he'd take with him on his hunting trips. See, that's quite elaborate, and they would be able to go on the hunting trips. Are there any questions at all? The rest of the house was completed in 1884. You can see originally the outside walls, and they just added this on. The Marquis wanted someplace to keep hunting equipment, store trunks and things like that. Nora's hobnailed riding boots and leggings are on the wall there. She enjoyed riding and hunting as much as the Marquis did. Also her side saddle. When she did ride, she would wear a skirt that was 6 inches longer in front to cover her ankles. And when the cowboys helped her out, they were supposed to close their eyes and turn their heads as well, so they wouldn't see anything. Also, some more of their trunks. The Marquis there looks like just like a chest of drawers. And this one is Medora's. She could fit only one complete outfit in there. So when she came this spring, she'd bring 20 to 25 of these with her. She'd also wear an outfit only once during the social season. Here's the baby carriage that children would get pushed out on the veranda by their nannies. You have little glass windows and the sides can also be removed too. A little bit more sun. Right here on the floor, these are 2 night of bear traps. Take 2 men to set these. On this particular trap right here, there are 27 notches filed in there. That's how many bear were caught in that particular trap.
I cut one in there every time I get one.
Also, these red cases back here, those contain the guns and ammunition that they took with them on their hunting trips. The 2 doors to the back here, the one to the left is Medora's dressing room, which is directly behind her bedroom. The other is the servant's waiting room. If you'd like, you can go ahead and look through those windows. The servant's waiting room is quite small, doesn't have any outside windows. So you can imagine how hot it would get in there when their servants were just waiting for the bell to summon them. His fences, and he didn't put up any gates. So he would cut off popular trails the other ranchers used. And there was a shootout which resulted. William Riley Lupsey was killed, the Marquis was accused, but was acquitted after a trial because they couldn't determine if it was the Marquis' bolt that had actually killed him. Also over here is also a children's sled that was a gift from their grandparents. And the bellows in the corner was in the blacksmith shop downtown that the Marquis owned.
Bellows.
Are there any questions at all? The servants, the 2 rooms across from the stairs here, these are where the children would sleep. They each had their own nanny who would sleep with them as well. The 3 rooms at this end with the mosquito netting were for the guests. Teddy Roosevelt and Pierre Weevil, if they came to visit, would have slept in that middle room. The room in the right-hand corner down there is where Medora's parents stayed. Later, a house was built for them in town, and that's today the doll house. The final room along this wall is just a servant's room, probably guest servants would have stayed there. And the paintings along the wall are Medora's also. So just go ahead and look around. If you have any questions, just ask.
Hand, you turn it with a hand. Good.
Later, she did finance the building of the St. Mary's Catholic Church, which is downtown Medora, and that's still in use today. Are there any questions at all? We head downstairs in the house. That's for the French chef. So you can go ahead and take a look in there, and then we'll continue on into the kitchen. Also, the children would eat. Children were not to go to the formal dining room until they had learned their manners. So they would be fed out here by their nannies. They'd use the high chair there. That was Medora's also when she was a child. That's 137 years old this year. The dishes that the servants used were English porcelain. Their hands screen painted, so there are no two that are identical. Also the ice box. The room to the back there is called a scullery, where the pots and pans were kept. There also used to be a hand pump in there. Then this other room is where they store their linens and dishes. The wine cellar is directly below this room right here. It's about 1/4 the size of the kitchen. Very unique at that time. Most people didn't drink wine out here, let alone have their own wine cellar. Marquis' favorite dishes was rare duck. Stick the duck in the oven for about 5 minutes, then take that out and serve it. This is where they would entertain their guests and eat when the many guests they had were here. They'd often serve about 10 courses for their meals. Start around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then finish about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So it was quite elaborate. The dishes here, these are mint in china, has a Gower design on them. They're from England. Dora the Marquis received these as a gift from her parents when they were married. They also received $3 million as a part of her dowry at the time of their marriage. The dishes here originally contained 500 pieces in the set. There's only about half of that left today. Many of the pieces were broken when this was used as a boarding house in the 1920s and early 30s. That was for a period of about 15 years, and it was operated by the caretakers who were employed by the Demores family. Besides this china set, she did have 3 others as well, and here are some of the other dishes. And over here, the pass-through, where they would pass food back and forth in the kitchen. There was also an oriental screen which stood in front of the door here, and the servant would sit behind the screen. And when anyone at the table needed anything, they would just ring a bell, and the servant would come out from behind the screen and serve them. The table right back here is a wine cooler, so they could have chilled wine. And the gong here would have hung outside, call people for the meals. They also had a special code so they could summon people from down the hill to bring up their carriages and horses or anything else that they needed. The silver wine service there was the Marquis. He did have 6 different types of wine glasses, so he could properly serve all the different kinds of wine that they had out here. Also, the 3 cups for demi-tasse, tea, and coffee. If the coffee was too hot to drink, they pour it into a smaller saucer, let it cool off, and then just slurp it out of the saucer instead of drinking out the cup. Do you have any questions, Noah? He did leave in 1886, and the Marquis was murdered 5 days before his 38th birthday. While he was in the Sahara Desert, his guys killed him. Nobody's real sure the reason behind that. Medora thought that it was a conspiracy within the French government to get rid of him. After they left here, they did go back to France. He got quite involved in France's politics and made quite a few enemies there as well. And she lived to be 65. She was nursing during World War I in Paris and received a leg wound, which she died from in 1921. 1936 is when their son Louis donated the Chateau to the State Historical Society in North Dakota. Then from 1937 to 41 it was restored by the CCC, and then 1941 it was opened up to the public. And it's been open since then.
In 41?
41. Any questions? Well, thank you for coming then. You can go ahead and just